IELTS Listening Test. Section 1. You will hear a conversation between a customer and an assistant at a holiday booking agency. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 10.
Good morning. Thank you for calling Seaside Holidays. How can I help you?
Hello, I'd like to book some accommodation for my family holiday.
Certainly. Can I take your name, please?
Yes, it's Fiona Grant. Grant.
Thank you, Miss Grant. And your contact number?
It's 02089173456.
02089173456. And could I have your email address?
It's fiona.grant@webmail.com.
fiona.grant@webmail.com. Got it. And what type of accommodation are you looking for? A hotel, apartment, or a villa?
We'd prefer a villa, ideally with a private pool.
A villa. And do you have a preferred location?
Somewhere near the beach would be lovely.
Near the beach, okay. And how many people will be in your party?
There are 4 of us, 2 adults and 2 children.
4 people. And when are you planning to travel?
We'd like to check in on the 15th of July.
The 15th of July. And how long would you like to stay?
For 10 nights.
10 nights, right. And you mentioned a private pool. Are there any other facilities you require?
Yes, internet access is essential, and also laundry facilities would be very helpful.
Internet and laundry facilities. Okay, let me check what we have available for those dates. Yes, we have a lovely villa available near White Sands Beach. It has a private pool, internet access, and a washing machine.
That sounds perfect. How much would that be?
For 10 nights, checking in on the 15th of July, the total price for the villa is £2,850.
£2,850. Okay, that sounds reasonable.
That is the end of section 1. You now have 1.5 minutes to check your answers. Section 2. You will hear a guide giving information about a city museum. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 20.
Welcome to the City Museum. I'm here to give you a brief guide to help you make the most of your visit. The museum building itself has an interesting history. It wasn't purpose-built as a museum, but was originally the home of a wealthy merchant family in the 19th century. It was later donated to the city and opened as a museum in 1925. To best navigate the museum, I recommend starting on the top floor and working your way down. This allows you to follow the historical timeline of the city more effectively. The ground floor houses the entrance, gift shop, and the temporary exhibition space. Speaking of the ground floor, the cafe is located just past the gift shop, near the main entrance. It serves a range of drinks and light snacks. Currently, we have a temporary exhibition on the history of local transport. It's particularly popular because it includes several interactive displays where you can try operating some old machinery. This exhibition is included in your general admission fee. Please note that while photography is permitted in most areas of the museum, it is not allowed in the temporary exhibition due to the nature of some of the borrowed items. So, Photography is fine in the permanent exhibition, but please refrain from taking pictures in the temporary one. Now let's quickly look at the permanent galleries. On the top floor, we'll find the Ancient Civilizations Gallery, focusing on early human settlement in this region. Highlights include some fascinating stone tools and ancient pottery. Moving down to the first floor, we have the Medieval Life Gallery, which gives you a glimpse into daily life during the Middle Ages. Look out for the impressive collection of knights' armor and beautiful tapestries. The second floor is dedicated to the Industrial Age, showcasing the town's history of industry and technology. Here you can see some examples of old factory machines and historic photographs. Also on the second floor is the Natural History Gallery, featuring local flora and fauna. Don't miss the extensive collection of bird specimens and the geological display with various rock samples. Finally, on the ground floor, beyond the entrance, is the Modern Art Gallery, which exhibits work by local contemporary artists. I hope you enjoy your visit.
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Listening practice. Section 3. You will hear two students, David and Chloe, discussing different options for student accommodation. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 30.
Okay, Chloe, we need to discuss the different options for students' accommodation for our presentation.
Right, we should cover university halls, shared houses or flats, and maybe private studio flats.
Good idea. Let's start with halls of residence. What are the advantages?
Well, they're usually on or very close to campus. The location is super convenient, and it's a great way to meet lots of new people, especially in your first year.
Definitely, and often, halls are included in the rent, which makes budgeting easier.
Yes, that's a big plus.
What about the disadvantages?
They can be really noisy, especially if you have flatmates who like to party. And there are often quite strict rules about visitors and things like that.
True, less privacy compared to other options. Okay, next, shared houses or flats.
The main advantage is more independence. You're not living under university rules, and you can choose who to live with, which is important.
Yes, living with friends is much better, and sometimes it can be cheaper than halls, although that depends on the property.
Potentially cheaper, yes, but the big disadvantage is that bills aren't usually included, so you have to manage those yourself. And dealing with landlords can sometimes be a hassle.
And you're responsible for all the cleaning and maintenance yourself. Finally, private studio flats.
The biggest advantage is complete privacy. You have your own kitchen and bathroom.
Yes, that's appealing. But they're usually the most expensive option by far.
Definitely. And They can feel a bit more isolating, especially if you don't make an effort to socialize elsewhere. And they're often further away from the university campus.
So, thinking about all that, what do you think is the most important factor for most students?
I think for first year students, location and social life are probably key. They want to be close to everything and meet people.
I agree. Cost becomes more important in later years, maybe.
Yes, for me personally, I think living with other students is important. I wouldn't want to live completely on my own in a studio flat.
I can see that. So, halls are good for first years, and shared houses are good if you want more independence and to live with friends. Studio flats are probably the best for someone who really values privacy and has a bigger budget.
Exactly. So halls are more suitable for first year students.
Right. What should our next step be for the presentation?
We've discussed the pros and cons. Maybe we should try get some real life perspectives.
How?
We could talk to some current students who live in different types of accommodation. Get their opinions.
That's a great idea. Much better than just reading online reviews.
Agreed. Let's try and find some people to interview.
First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 30. Listening Test, Section 4. You will hear a lecture about the impact of climate change on coastal regions. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40.
Good morning. Today I want to discuss the significant and growing impact of climate change on the world's coastal regions. Coastal areas are incredibly important. They are home to a large percentage of the world's population, supporting vital ecosystems, and are centers of economic activity, like fishing and tourism. However, they are also on the front line of climate change impacts. One of the most significant impacts is sea level rise. This is caused primarily by two factors: the melting of glaciers and ice sheets, and the thermal expansion of seawater as it warms. As sea levels rise, coastal erosion increases, leading to the loss of valuable land and habitat. Saltwater intrusion can also contaminate freshwater supplies, affecting drinking water and agriculture. Another major impact is the increased frequency and intensity of storms. Warmer sea temperatures provide more energy for tropical storms and hurricanes, making them more powerful and destructive. These storms cause significant damage to coastal infrastructure, buildings, and natural habitats like wetlands. Ocean acidification is another serious consequence. As the ocean absorbs excess carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, its pH decreases, making it more acidic. This acidification harms marine life, particularly organisms with shells and skeletons like shellfish and corals. This in turn impacts coastal fisheries and ecosystems that rely on these organisms. So, what can be done? Both adaptation and mitigation strategies are needed. Adaptation involves adjusting to the current and future effects of climate change. This can include building protective structures like seawalls and barriers,
although these can be expensive and disrupt natural processes. A more sustainable approach is restoring natural coastal defenses like mangrove forests, salt marshes, and coral reefs, which provide natural protection against storms and erosion. Developing early warning systems for storms is also crucial for protecting coastal communities. Mitigation involves reducing the cause of climate change, primarily by reducing greenhouse gas emissions globally. This requires a transition to renewable energy sources and improving energy efficiency. In conclusion, coastal regions face severe threats from climate change. A combination of adaptation to the inevitable changes and mitigating future warming is essential to protecting these vulnerable areas and the communities that depend on them. Thank you.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers. That is the end of the listening test.